All right. We're live. We're recording.
Hi.
So, I almost said how you doing, how you doing, but that is a Meat Canyon intro. That is called Panic. Hey everybody, what's up? It's me, Reese. It's your boy. Uh yeah. We're gonna do our first podcast episode for Dungeons and Dragons and Daddies. In particular, I am Dungeon Daddy Reese. Not to be confused with BDSM Dungeon Daddy Reese. That's in Demon Hours. We're not going to talk about that one right now. We're going to talk about some D&D shit, I guess. I've got Teezus here.
That
Uncle
sounds like a
Teezus,
great plan to
everybody's,
me.
yeah, everybody's favorite Uncle Teezus. Say hi, Uncle Teezus.
Hi, everybody. Whippersnappers and regular people.
He is not the oldest in the server, surprisingly. But he did bring in the oldest person in the server, so you know,
I did. The oldest person in the server is actually a friend of mine, IRL.
yeah. But he's still the second
Speaking of
oldest
which, that
person in the
that
server.
yeah, he actually texted me and was like, "Hey, dude, what are you doing for Cinco de Mayo? You want to go drinking?" I'm like, "Oh my God, dude, it's Monday. Give me a freaking break."
Well, he's so old. Why is he going drinking for Cinco de Mayo?
Well,
Never change. Never change, Uncle
without
Teezus.
doxing anybody,
Oh,
his wife works overnight somewhere, and so she's in bed right now. She has to get
oh,
up,
so
and I think she
he's
works like
lonely.
yeah, she works like 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. or something like that. I don't know the exact hours, but so she's sleeping right now, and so he's just wanting something to do.
Oh my
And I was
God,
like, oh,
he's
I can't
lonely.
because I'm like I'm super popular and people want to talk to me over the internet. Sorry.
I should have invited him to the podcast. Maybe
I
next
mean, he's
week.
such a
Maybe
big
next week.
talker.
He is not a big talker. He doesn't talk at all in the Vecna game. I have to be like,
Yeah,
hey,
he's
Danny, what are you doing over there?
and he's it's funny. He's um I I have a home game where I'm the DM, and he'll come over and like everybody's having fun and doing whatever, and then he'll like stop paying attention, and I can tell he's not paying attention because he'll start looking at his computer very intently, and I'm like, oh, he's doing something, and so then I start messing with his character, and he's like, wait, what? And we all laugh heartily.
So am I still robotic?
It's a little bit choppy,
Oh, that makes
but
me
not too
sad.
bad. It didn't start until we started recording, for what it's worth.
Okay, well, yeah, I really should have brainstormed an intro for this, but welcome to Coughing Bubblegum Grandma. Ahoo, ahoo, ahoo. Welcome to the Dungeons and Dragons and Daddies podcast. I am Dungeon Daddy Reese, and yeah, this guy here, you can call him Uncle Teezus. Or don't. I don't care
Hello,
what
I
you
am
do.
Uncle Teezus.
He's invited to the cookout for those curious. He's not hosting it, but
I'm
he's
pretty
invited.
excited about that. What should I bring to the
So
cookout? Should I bring some hot dogs?
as long as they ain't Oscar Mayer wieners. I don't fucks with the Oscar. Should I wait, am I brand drop? Should I not brand drop? I don't even know. As long as they're 100% beef franks.
Okay. You ever had the hot dogs with the natural casing?
I'm sorry, is a natural casing? Are
Natural
you talking
casing.
are you
So
talking about bratwurst?
nope, they're hot dogs. So hot dogs you get from the grocery store are either don't have any casing, or
Yeah.
they're made with, or it's like a, not, I don't know what they make the casing out of. It's, some kind of chemical process with vegetable oil, I believe. Natural casing hot dogs, they use the um they use part of an animal from the inside of it.
Intestines.
It might be intestines, but it could also be blood vessels. I'm not 100% sure. But like
Well,
they are like
when you
the
do
difference.
sausages, it's the intestines. It's the like lamb intestines and sheep intestines when you do sausages and bratwurst and stuff.
Yeah, they're so much better. I don't know what it is about them that makes them better, but they're better.
It's why I normally don't eat hot dogs. Okay, I hate hot dogs, but when I eat hot dogs, if I'm going to eat a hot dog, it's going to be 100% beef frank. So it's the same. It's just they're better. Maybe it's because I grew up poor and had to eat cheap chicken and pork mincemeat mystery meat hot dogs every night for almost all of my life up till adulthood. But I hate hot dogs. I hate hot dogs and I hate ramen most of the time, like instant ramen. Won't I have to make it fancy or I won't eat it.
That's fair. Well, okay, so I won't bring hot dogs to the cookout then. I'll bring something else.
You can bring
Ooh,
hot
I know what I'll
dogs. I
bring.
just probably won't eat them. I'll be chilling by the hamburger patties.
I could bring the food of my people, known as pierogies.
I was going to say potato salad with raisins. That was my
Gross.
first
That's just
thought.
gross.
That was that was literally my first thought, and I was like, please don't bring that.
I should have said that, because then we could have all been grossed out together. Like, who mixes those things
Right?
together?
That's disgusting.
I feel worse knowing that that's a thing that people do.
Yeah. Specifically your people.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I've seen some odd recipes that involve only a casserole dish and nothing else. Just a casserole dish and canned food.
Dump it all in there, stir it all up, good to go.
Stir it all up with a 1 pound block of Velveeta cheese. Not even the melted cheese, the solid block of cheese right in the middle.
I'm like, I'm like, my brain is saying there's no way that would work, but I'm like, you know what? It's funny. I'm just laughing.
It's like, everybody's so creative.
You know what you gotta get? You gotta get one of those like little apple cores. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like a hollow cylinder of metal, and you like poke out the core of the apple. Use that on your Velveeta, and you fill the holes with weird stuff,
Oh
and then you
my
slice
god,
it up.
don't give your cousins ideas.
Well, funny story. That actually reminds me of something in real life that my
Of
dad
course
said
it
my
does.
grandfather used to make all the time. Um,
Oh god.
and it was, I mean, they called it head cheese, but it wasn't actually from the head. Well, it could
Oh,
be from the head, but you would take like bones with like the little bits of meat and fat and stuff stuck to it, and you'd boil it, and like the fat would like come off, and then you would like take all that fat and put it into like a pan, and then you'd put other
are you
stuff
talking
into it,
about the
and
stuff
it
that floats on top of the water when you're boiling like boiling bone broth? All the
yeah, pretty
scum?
much the chunks and fat, and then you basically take it
That's
all, press it into a pan, and then you spread it on
no.
like bread and stuff.
That's we call that scum where I come from. We take that and we put that in the trash so we can have a nice clear
Yeah,
broth.
Well, fun, my grandfather apparently loved that crap and he would just take bread and spread that on bread and just chow down on it.
Oh my god, I think I just gained 30 pounds listening to that.
Well,
Oh my
he
god.
died at like 62 from a stroke, I think. So, I mean,
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that contributed to the problem.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh,
Oh
why am
no,
I
I
laughing while
never met him.
apologizing?
No, you can laugh because it's kind of ridiculous. It's like such a ridiculous story. And
It's
I never
so
really met him. I mean,
ridiculous.
he passed away when I was like less than a year old, so I have no memory of him. I've only seen pictures of him, so it's okay.
Speaking of ridiculous, I have gathered you here today to mostly talk about Tessel,
Oh, our favorite little deep gnome.
specifically my favorite Deep Gnome.
He's a character, isn't he?
He is a character. He is a character in my Vecna Eve of Ruin campaign, which we play on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern in our little Discord server. Uh, so tell us about Tessel and what inspired you to create a deep gnome with a lightning fetish and an obsession with powerful magical sticks. I think that last bit was my fault.
Yeah, well, the magical sticks are your fault. We'll address that part last. So the inspiration for Tessel um was I wanted to play something kind of roguish,
Hmm.
but like I didn't want to just play a regular old rogue because I don't know, that felt like it was going to be boring. And so I'm like, well, what? So I was looking for
Kind of
something
got
that
tired of the
would
black cloak and the hood pulled over your face and the shadows. You wanted something special.
pretty much triple classing was not something I necessarily set out to do, but so just for the backstory here, Tessel is a deep gnome tempest. I'm sorry, he's a deep gnome artificer slash tempest cleric slash rogue, and f- I think it's 5 levels of artificer, so he gets to uh create his artificer armor, and he picked the lightning suitor, I believe, or lightning launcher, I believe it's called. And then he's 2 levels in tempest cleric because you get some fun little abilities that augment lightning damage with that. And then after that, we're at level what, 12 now, so he's 5 levels of rogue. And really he that's just for him to be to get some extra sneak attack damage, because the lightning launcher damage is a little bit limited in what it can do. And basically the entire character is built around uh getting big big lightning damage up front in the beginning of a battle, and then you know just kind of running around and doing stupid stuff after that. He's it's I don't want to admit how much time I spent poking around on the internet trying and fiddling with a character sheet to see how all this different stuff would work together. More than I should have. But
I mean,
as for the stick fetish,
oh, here we go. Here we go.
well, it just so happened that Hessel wanted some magical items, and we realized after he asked for them that they were all magical sticks. And so, the joke was
While
born.
while you are on a quest to retrieve the 7 pieces of the ultimate magical stick.
That's right. So, and so we decided that the backstory there is Tesla grew up in the Underdark and there were no trees or sticks, so he's fascinated with sticks, particularly magical ones.
Hell yeah. So where did the idea of worshiping strong mouse come from? And how do you kind of make it show up consistently in the game or without making it a look at me kind of main character syndrome,
Oh,
I
the
guess.
this so yeah, you know, Tesal's voice is kind of inspired by well, he's from the Underdark, right? And so I was like,
Hmm.
well, he should have a accent that shows that he's from a different part of the world than everybody else. And sort of my go-to for that is sort of like a generic Eastern European accent, a la uh oh crap, I'm on the spot now. A la
Hmm.
Sacha Baron Cohen's character there, the Borat. But then I was like, but he's also a gnome, so he's 3 feet tall, so he's gonna have like a high pitched voice. So it came out, "Hello, this is Tesal. I am from the Underdark, and I talk like this all the time." I'm sure all the other players on the server love that Tesal is super irritating.
Tesla is my favorite character right now. Don't tell anyone else, even though I have told everyone else, and they know. Everyone knows. The from I've if I recall, the first time I ever heard you do Tesla's voice, I was like, "Oh my god, yeah, this is the one." That's the one right there.
It's the one that's gonna make us famous.
I wish. I hope.
Fingers crossed. Listen to our podcast, yay! Um, but yeah, it's the funny part is when I first thought up the character, I was like, oh, he's gonna be, and I this is gonna segue into another conversation, I think. I was like, yeah,
That's
he's
fine.
gonna
We
be
got
like kind
time to
of a
kill.
nerdy. What's that?
I said, "That's fine. We've got time to kill."
Absolutely. So yeah, so my first idea was, yeah, he's gonna be kind of like the prototypical nerd who is just kind of sitting there muttering to himself, and then like when stuff hits the fan, he's like lightning bolts everywhere. And then but then it's kind of, art art follows life a little bit, and I just can't help but be myself while we're playing D&D, especially, when you're on an online game, and we don't usually play with video. And so, you can't necessarily see what everybody's doing. And when we first started, everybody was fairly quiet. So I found myself being compelled to talk a lot. And so Tessel's personality kind of ended up mirroring my own a little more than I intended, but it works out. And it's kind of amusing because now, so Tessel, you know, the character thinks that he is really great at a lot of things. And in reality, he's definitely not. He has, I think he has a -1 charisma score, but he's strutting around like, yes, I'm
He's
very good. Look at my lightnings. And
Tessel
everybody's
is
like, oh
the
my God,
king of
dude,
fake it until you make it.
that's right. He sure is. He sure is. That's his mantra. Actually, no, that's not his mantra because he thinks he's making it. He doesn't even realize he's faking it.
I
So
think his
yeah, I
his
mean,
his
it's
his his catchphrase is probably something like "You are not very nice, lady." With all the mean ladies he's
he does
running.
say he does enjoy saying sort of obvious things.
So
Yeah, and it's oh, go ahead.
it's I kind of wanted to circle back to Strong Mouse a little bit. Uh, where did that uh plan come from? Was that like instant when you were like lightning? I want to do lightning, and was it like a process of he's incredibly small, he should worship a god that typically is followed by things that are incredibly big? Like, how did that work out?
Yeah, so that was getting so Strong Mouse is a giant god. I don't have it in front of me. He's like the giant god of lightning, basically. And so I was basically looking because he does have 2 levels in Tempest Cleric. So I'm like, well, there should be a god involved in being a cleric. So I'm like sort of looking around, like, is there a god of lightning in sort of the lore? And it turned out there was, and it's Strongmouse, but he was a giant god. So I'm like, all right, how do I make it so there's a deep gnome who's a follower of the giant's god of lightning? So then, the creative juices got flowing, and
As they do.
I made up this super convoluted backstory for for Tesel to end up where he ended up in life. But I don't know. I kind of think it works. Um, it sort of fits in with sort of w- with this campaign where everybody in the campaign is a little bit of a misfit toy from the island of misfit toys. It feels like in some ways.
Yeah, Tesla's aesthetic is eccentric and and bold. So was that always the vision when you first like were conceptualizing Tesla? Was it like this guy is going to be ridiculous?
No, that's the funny part. Like when I first thought of him, I'm like, he's gonna be sort of like standoffish and like introverted and almost autistic seeming. But then like when shit hits the fan, he's just gonna be blast. It's gonna be like Frank from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So I just came out blasting.
He's
But
like, so then he started blasting.
but then I realized that I don't know how to do that. Like from a as a non-professional actor, I don't know how to act like an autistic person. So it kind of just Tesla just kind of turned into me, but smaller and lightninger. Um,
Same hair color, I hear.
yeah, I mean, we both have a shock of white hair. My hair's not white, and you know that, so shut up. But not
Yes,
all the
yes.
way yet. Just a
I'm just
few. Just
bullying Jesus for
I got
being
the Reed
white.
Richard wings at the
You got.
temples.
My mom has them like right above her eyebrows, like the streaks of white. I call them her horns.
Oh,
So, you know,
it's like Rogue from X-Men.
that's,
Are we allowed to
sure,
reference other pop
superhero.
culture shit?
I don't. I'm not. You know what? This is probably gonna get me demonized, but I don't really do superheroes.
You
The
don't
only
believe in
reason
superheroes?
so I don't watch or read a lot of superhero content. So I like Deadpool and I like
Oh, okay.
Spider-Man. And I like the boys universe. I love Homelander. I like Invincible universe. I love Omni-Man. Yes, and I am fully aware that those are two pieces of shit and they are both also horrible parents. Don't judge me, don't
There
talk
you
to me.
go.
Don't argue with me. It's not worth wasting your breath. I love Homelander and Omni-Man. And I don't
I'm
care
not
that
judging.
Homelander is a little titty baby.
The Boys is a great show. Homelander is,
A titty
and I
baby.
haven't.
And that's
I
okay.
Yeah, he is a titty baby. I don't. So I tried reading the comics for the Boys, and my personal unabridged opinion is that the TV show is better than the comics for the Boys. Um, it's just I don't know. It just feels more. What's the word I'm looking for? The characters feel more real than in the boys comics. In the comics there's less focus on the personality of these deeply flawed
Like mother's
superhero
milk.
characters. What was that?
I said like mother's milk.
Yeah. And the focus in the comics is on like the butcher and Huey and all those people. And
Hmm.
I mean that's cool, but like the whole it's basically revenge porn, and it just gets boring after a while. Whereas in the TV show, there's just a lot more going on, and it's much more. I don't know. I find it more compelling. So for once,
Plus, if I watch
TV
the
did it
TV
better.
show, people don't make fun of me for crushing on a cartoon character because now it's an actual person.
Yeah, and Anthony Starr is a fairly attractive middle-aged man.
Oh, teases deep lore?
What?
Does
No, I'm
Mrs.
just
Teases
saying.
know? Just does Mrs. Teezus know?
No, no.
No.
Mrs. Teezus, Mrs. Teezus will tell you that I only have one true male crush, and it is Michael J. Fox. And
Not Ryan Reynolds.
no, he's too pretty. It's Michael J. Fox.
True. He's so soft.
He is. He's soft. He's way too soft. I mean, he's hilarious as Deadpool, but way too soft to be a real Deadpool. Michael J. Fox, on the other hand, is the greatest. I used to have this recurring dream where Michael J. Fox and I met in a bar and became best friends.
Did we just become best friends?
I mean, it was literally like that. Um, so Michael J. Fox, if you're listening to this podcast, just call me, man. I'm telling you,
On
we
the
will
off
be best
chance.
friends. Yeah,
On the
I mean,
Michael
no, I
J.
feel like there's a
Fox.
decent chance that Michael J. Fox is gonna listen to this.
Listen, Michael J. Fox, we're algorithming you right now. So if you're watching this, just give Teezus a little shout out. Just be like, hey, Uncle Teezus. Next time you're on camera and someone's recording, just be like, hey, Uncle Teezus. It's me, Michael J. Fox. We're best friends. And it will make his life. He doesn't have that much longer to live. He's really old. So if you could just, this is like his make a wish, okay? Just do this one thing for him.
Wow. You told me you were holding back, so it's fine. Not much longer to live, indeed. Jeez. Fine. Not mad.
It's okay. Uncle Ben is on borrowed time.
Oh my. Oh my.
Okay, so what has been your favorite moment so far in our little Vecna campaign we've got going? I know what mine
Ooh,
is.
favorite moment. Oh, there's been some good ones. And we're only what, like 6 sessions in, and we've already had some good ones.
We're more than well, we're 6 sessions into the return, maybe, if that. But like overall, we've got a good 11 sessions under our belt.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the moment last night where I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. So last night I thought Tesla was gonna have like a really cool like finishing move scene and he had advantage on his attack, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. So I had him like say, and of course, famous last words. I'm like, I'm gonna say the words first and then I'm gonna roll. So I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was like, you know, it was like, go F yourself, you mean lady. And then I rolled the die and it was like a 1 and a 2. And I'm like, okay, well, that was a waste of high quality programming right there.
It was I think the problem is you should go fuck yourself. And then proceeds to whiff both of his attacks, both of his finishers.
Yeah, so the lesson, the takeaway lesson is roll the dice first before you say your awesome whatever you're
Or
gonna say.
don't. Or don't, and then we get more awesome moments like that where it's like, fuck you, and then you roll the dice and you get a nat one and you're like, fuck me.
Yep, yep.
My
But
favorite Vecna moment in particular has been our first return episode when we honed in on Tesal and his mansion and he was going to have breakfast with Sarcel, butt ass naked.
oh yeah,
And he
just
were like
skipping
just
around his
stands
own
there
house.
akimbo. And I feel like the only reason it's my favorite part, and also this is the worst reason, is because like my head had a full mental image of this, and I was Sarcel in that moment, and I was looking at just butt naked Tesel. I combined your names, but I was looking at butt naked Tessel, cheeks slightly clenched, legs spread, like feet shoulder width apart, hands on his hips, and just carpet matching the drapes. It's just I almost lost it. I was like, okay.
Yeah, you know,
So that's where
Tesla's
the
here for the
breakfast
comedy,
sausage
man.
went.
What can we say?
I love Tesal. Uh, speaking of breakfast with Sarsel, how did Tesal go from rescuing Sarsel to romancing Sarsel?
Oh, how did he do it? Well, I'm gonna go with Tesla was a persistent pursuer
He really
of,
do.
and I believe what we said was that Tesla didn't fully understand that Sarsel was at best ambivalent towards his advances, but he just wouldn't stop. He would not take no for an answer, which is probably not a good lesson. Kids, no means
No
no.
means no.
Um, but Tesla's a pretty. I mean, he's not harmless, but um he's not creepy. He's unassuming. He
He's
just decided he liked Sarsel
well
and
in
was going for it,
Tesla's
shooting
defense.
his shot.
In Tesla's defense, Sarsel never directly said no. She just she
True.
beat around the bush, and she was very, very tee-hee about it, and very quiet. She wouldn't outright reject him, but she'd be like, "You're being so silly. Stop. Oh my god."
Yes, there was a lot of that, and so because of the beating around the bush, nope, I'm not going to say that. Tesla decided he was going to try things. That's all.
He was like, "Well, she didn't say no."
Nobody said no here. Not yet. Still got
Yeah.
a shot.
So
It's
you're
Tesla's
saying there's a
thinking.
chance.
And
uh,
then, from there, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to dancing around naked in his own house.
Hello. All right, give me 1 second. My mom just called. I'm going to ask you a question, and then you can just answer it. Did you turn this on? No, hello? I didn't turn it on. Hey. This that just threw off my whole groove. How do you play such a borderline ridiculous character without totally derailing my campaign?
Without totally what? Sorry, I missed that last bit.
Without completely derailing the campaign.
Oh no, my number one goal is to completely derail the campaign at every possible chance. That's not entirely true. No, you know, well, it's especially when we first started out and it was just there was just three of us as players. It was actually not that hard because the other, Pickle, although he started becoming a talker a little bit as he gets more comfortable with everybody. But Pickle and Ben weren't really big talkers, so they would just let me go and blah 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 blah, blah run my mouth. So now that there's more people, I think it's Tesla's going to have more uh, controlled bursts. We'll say. Uh-oh, did I lose you, Reese?
No, I'm here, but my grandma has joined me in the living room and she's on the phone with my mom. So give me 1 second.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I'll keep talking about Tesla. Yeah, so he's ridiculous, but at the same time, like he is a do-gooder in his own way. And so, he recognizes, I think, the threat that someone like Vecna poses to the Forgotten Realms. And so as a do-gooder, he's on board for going after Vecna and using his special set of skills to um end the threat. He'll get into some shenanigans along the way, and he's gonna try one of his favorite things to do is to Gideon Silversun seems to follow Tesla around quite a bit, and so any chance he gets, he turns to Gideon and he goes, "Gideon, what should we do?" And try to force Gideon to say stuff, which is like, pulling teeth. And Gideon almost always punts. He's like, "I don't know, Tesla. Maybe you should decide," or whatever he says. And I'm just like, "Okay, that's cool. I'll just decide what we're doing. It's fine." Um, so I don't think Tesla's derailed things too much. The side thing with Sarcel, I mean, it fit in thematically, so I don't think it was too derailing, and it was I think everybody thought it was funny too. So
I have banished my grandma to her bedroom. She's grounded.
grounded,
I have grounded
Grandma,
my
you're
hubby
grounded.
and
So
yeah.
what's going
I
on
have
with
not
Mom and
forgotten.
Grandma? They debating something exciting?
My mom, I heard on the phone my mom saying something about I left my Dungeons and Dragons dice at her house when I was over there. And probably one of my kids, I don't know, found him. I'm not sure. It wasn't on speaker. She was just screaming about something, so or talk I shouldn't say screaming. She was talking very loudly to the point where even though the phone was not on speaker, I could still like hear a lot of what she was saying. And I know it involved dice.
Isn't it great how our families support I was about to say our habits, our hobbies so extensively?
Sometimes. Sometimes my family gets too enthusiastic about my hobby and they want to be right on top of me while I'm doing it, but then I can't hear or talk because they're being extremely loud in my presence because while they're enjoying my hobby, even though they promised not to do that.
Is yet Not to change the subject, but did your daughter start participating in Drifty's campaign by any chance? Oop, I just
No,
named somebody by name. Oh well.
I was I you mean messy?
I don't know who you're
See,
talking
that's an
about.
inside joke. You guys won't understand. That was just a me and Teezus joke, okay? No, she wanted to play my You, Me, and the End of the World campaign that I was gonna do on Fridays. But then I realized, like, my free campaigns, in comparison to my paid campaigns, my free campaigns are just so chaotic and they drive me so crazy. And I was like, if I do more than one a week, I'm going to end up institutionalized. Because right now,
Yeah, I mean,
I run a free
free
campaign on
campaigns are hard.
Wednesday. So, do what?
Yeah, I mean, they're hard for so many reasons because like everybody, I don't know, I haven't. Well, I've done a few, but you know, you've got the element of people are not super invested in them, so if they don't feel
And
like coming, they don't show up.
they have
And
nothing to
then,
lose.
exactly. Um, so they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do whatever." And sometimes it works and it's funny but sometimes it's just like, dude, really?
Yeah, I'm always down for a little payoff, but when the chaos starts getting to the point where even I can't get it back on track, and half the time I'm just sitting there with my face resting on my hand while you guys like chaos at each other, you know, I've like I love my Wednesday campaign. I love my Wednesday players, but that campaign has gone so off the rails that I have stopped taking notes for it. Like,
Yeah.
they spent the last 6 episodes in the Feywild. You know how many of those I planned for them to be in the Feywild in? Zero.
Zero?
Okay, zero. I was like, why are you guys still here? I had them chased by unicorn hunters. I had them chased by yetis. I had them almost get arrested. And they just kept staying in the Feywild. And I'm like, why? they're
Oh
like,
my
we
gosh,
want to
that's
fight
funny.
the big bad. We want to fight the Winter King. And I'm like, you're level 6. You weren't
You ain't
supposed
gonna
to
win.
be in the Feywild for like at least 11 more levels. And part of that is my fault. Part of it is my fault. Because I don't just say no. Because, like, I don't want a railroad. I want them to have their little sandbox and
Yeah.
be able to do what they want to do. But I
Well, that
believe
actually this kind of oh, go ahead, keep going. Sorry.
I believe in my Wednesday campaign, I need to find a happy medium of sandboxing and railroading. Because what I've got going on in there right now is not it.
Yeah. Well, it's always the challenge, right? And you know, the other element, and this kind of leads into something we were talking about earlier today. You know, that the other element is, you know, the people who uh don't fully get what having a character that is a part of a do-gooder adventuring party really means. And
Yeah.
you know, and again, it's a hard balance because you want people to, you know, I'm saying this as Teezus, not necessarily as Tessel, because I've been on
Yeah.
both sides of these things, and you know, you want people to do what they want to do and have a good time, but you know, at the same time, if you have, as I like to say, too many edge lords who don't want to like talk to anybody and they want to just like stand in the corner and, you know, brood, and that's like their only
Uh,
action that they take.
Speaking of edgelords, I do have some
You
Q&A
know,
questions that we're going to hit later that revolve around the edgelords
uh-oh,
and
okay.
how to deal with them, when to say enough is enough. Yeah.
Ooh, you want to get into it now, or you want to do something else first?
We can finish. I can finish asking you about Tesla. I can move on to the Q&A section. We're
Okay.
42 minutes in. I'll ask you a few more Tesla questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just as we want to get to know this guy a little better. I think he's a nifty neato guy. And we have not yet spoken about one of the maybe most character altering moments he might have had
Oh
thus
yeah.
far in this campaign, which is his death. How do you think Tesla's death will change how you roleplay him?
Mm. Will it change how I role play him? I think. Well, there's gonna be two elements to that. So, you know, when Tesla got killed, you know, obviously it was somewhat unexpected for him. He got a little blindsided, which is, you know, totally on brand for any potential adventure situation. And so, you know, and I don't even think Tesla was being particularly uncautious. He just kind of got stuck in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And then the second half of that is, you know, he had what, you know, while he was dead, right before he got revivified, he had a little snippet of time where he was interacting with Mouse, you know, the giant lightning god. And so, you know, I think for Tessel, his primary concern talking to Mouse was, am I on the right path here? Am I doing the right thing? And you know, he comes off as pretty confident in that regard, but you know, I think all of us, you know, humans, people, gnomes, whatever, in general, even when you're pretty sure you're doing the right thing and outwardly you're projecting like, yes, I know what I'm doing. There's a piece of you, a piece of all of us that are like, I mean, I think I'm doing the right thing, but I don't actually know. So, you know, when you're confronted with that the literal or figurative higher power, you're like, and you have the opportunity to ask, "Am I doing the right thing?" Um, I feel like all of us, given that opportunity, would try to at least inquire, like, "Am I totally doing this wrong? Like, am I pointed in the right direction here?" And I think it was a good interaction for Tessel because he didn't really get a direct answer. I'm trying to think exactly what Strongmouse said. I believe Strongmouse just told him, like, you're fine. And so, that's it's not like an endorsement of what Tessel's doing, but it's also not a indictment of what he's doing.
Yeah,
So, you
Strong
know,
Mouse was very
Tessel can
much
take it
like,
either way.
"You are fine the way you are now, Tessel.
Yes,
I love you
exactly.
just the way you
And
are."
so exactly. So Tessel, I mean, now Tessel, being who he is, took that to mean, yeah, I'm doing it all right. But somebody else could take that exact same statement and be like, well, I don't have to be however I'm being. I can just be myself. And so, for Tessel, I think he's kind of laying it all out there most of the time anyway. He's not afraid to, be his own person. I mean, when you're 3 foot tall and you worship a giant god, and the way you got to that point is trying to visit the giant god temple, and you got laughed out of it by the other giant priests. You've got to have like a pretty decent sense of self in order to go through that and just keep on trucking. So I mean, so I think that Tessel is going to have a sense that he needs to keep doing what he's doing. Now, that being said, I think Tessel is going to be a little bit more cautious about throwing himself into the middle of danger, because he's pretty squishy, and I think he learned he's pretty squishy.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Teezus is going to be more cautious about throwing Tessel into the middle of danger. Uh,
Yeah.
but you know, if I think what'll end up happening is Tesla is going to feel justified in his worship of Strong Mouse, and he's probably going to bring up Strong Mouse more often. Ooh, that's a good idea.
He's
Okay,
gonna
filing that away.
evangelize.
Maybe not evangelize, but because I don't think that's how necessarily Tesla rolls. But he is certainly gonna, when confronted with when confronted by certain people who seem to have it out for Tesla or have a disdain for Tesla's uh you know autre vie. I think he's going to be like, well, when I spoke to Stronos, he was very pleased with how I am, so on you, or something like that. It'll be good. One witch in particular, I think, has a bit of a sour feeling towards Tesla, and Tesla is
Yeah, Tessel and Tasha, yes, from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, do not have the best relationship.
no. I don't. Why did that start? I think Tesla was just being obnoxious after he got summoned there, and Tasha decided this is this. I'm gonna give this guy the business, and Tesla's like, yeah, bring it.
Yeah, I think Tessel was just genuinely asking a lot of questions, and he's a deep gnome, so there is that level of mouse. But Tasha is a very haughty witch, and she likes to always, or at least as often as she possibly can, be that intimidating presence that's respected and revered, and Tesla was not really doing that. But the problem with
It's true.
Tasha's approach to Tessel is that she only made it worse.
Yeah, especially because Tesla can make magical items that are really irritating.
Yeah,
Oh,
Tasha, I'm really eager to see the downward spiral that Tasha and Tessel end up going into with each other, especially as Tessel gets stronger and these two do, while they're being enemies, kind of become friends because they're working together for this common cause. So, frenemy arc?
Oh, it's gonna they're gonna I feel like they're gonna have to get into a prank war. That's my sense. It's gonna be that kind of relationship where, you know, they don't particularly like each other, but they both have that sense that I can F with this person and it's gonna all be in good fun, and then they can F back with me, and everybody's gonna come out of it with some giggles, and so it'll be fine. As long as it doesn't get too I don't think it's gonna go in a violent direction. I think it'll be
I
limited
don't think
to
so either. I think
silliness.
it's going to be a lot of Tessel pulling very childish Tessel like pranks, and a lot of Tasha trying to be that matronly, sort of dominant, authoritative presence and smacking him on the wrist, but smacking him out on the wrist in a way that is tit for tat,
Oh, yeah.
which keeps
It's
it
kinda like
fun.
that o yeah, it's like that older sister irritating younger brother dynamic.
Yeah, that I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
Exactly. I get to so I yeah, I've got I I'm an old man, I have 2 kids who are almost adults, and I have watched them for the past 20 years or so have exactly this dynamic where, you know, my daughter, who's the older one,
Mhm.
she's like, I'm very important and, blah, blah, blah. And then my son is just like, I'm going to poke the bear and see what happens.
And see,
And then giggle and run away.
I am also an older person. I'm not as old as Teezus. I never got to see a dinosaur on my way to school. But I'm up there. And I have 3 kids myself, and my daughter is also my oldest. And yeah, she has a little brother. Not the youngest brother, but the middle child brother. And these two are always butting heads, and he loves to like go in her room, and she'll be like, "Get out of my room." And he'll be like, "No, mom's in here, so I can be in here." And then I'm like, "First of all, don't bring me into this. Second of all, I didn't tell you you could come in here. Go stand in the doorway. What do you have to say?" "Nothing. I just want to look." "Okay, so you just came in here to cause problems? You came in here to cause problems always." He doesn't
Yeah,
want peace.
they're just little shit stirrers.
"I don't want peace. I want problems always." It's like, "Why are you in here? Do you need something?" "No, I just want to talk." "Okay, well, can you do it from in the hallway at least so she's not crashing out in my presence?"
Crashing out.
That's what she
Yeah,
goes, "Oh my God, I'm gonna crash out. I'm crashing out. Help me, Chad, I'm crashing out." And I'm like, "Okay, listen, you have not seen a crash out. You have not seen, I have seen some day one crash outs, my guy." I've seen I've seen some
I don't think
nasties.
those words mean what you think they mean.
Any minor
Okay.
inconvenience with her, and she's like, "I'm gonna crash out."
Yeah, yeah. I remember
All
those
right,
days.
I have one
Sometimes
more.
we still have those days too.
Yeah, some days something small happens to me and I mimic her because I live vicariously through my teenage daughter. She'll be 13 in July. And I'll have the most minor inconvenience where like I'll be stacking something and one little thing will fall. It won't even be a whole stack, it'll just be one thing falls over and hits the ground and I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna crash out." So really we all have those days. But it happens on the days where so much has already gone wrong, and then it's just like that final little grain of sand that tips the scales, and it's like, "Listen, all that happened was a leaf fell in your hair. Why are you acting like this?" And it's like, "You weren't here for the 12 plus hours of shit that's been happening since I woke up this morning. Fuck you and fuck this leaf."
It's like you remember that? Well, maybe I don't know if you remember this book or not. Alexander's terrible, awful, very bad day, or whatever it's called. I feel like there's certain ages with little girls
Yeah,
where it's just every single day.
the
It's
terrible,
that.
horrible, no good, very bad day.
Yep.
All right, I've got one more question about Tesla, and then we'll move on to some Q&A from players and DMs.
Okay.
Uh, what advice, and this is going to kind of merge us into the Q&A from the Tesla arc, but what advice do you have for people trying to play a character that juggles hilarity and emotional depth?
What advice do I have for playing a character? Hmm. You know, so I think I kind of hinted at this before, but like, uh, until you're like, unless you're a professional actor, which very few of us are, and definitely not me. I mean, every character you do is it's gonna end up being more like how you are in real life. Um, than you maybe ever initially intend it to be. And so, I think the only advice I would have is, you know how you are in those sort of D&D scenarios, and instead of trying to make yourself fit the character, make the character fit you. And, whatever your backstory and whether it's tragic or the opposite, whatever the opposite of tragic is, or if it's um
Comedic?
heroic or comedic or whatever it is. I mean, you're gonna be the way you play the character is gonna be more like how you would just be interacting with people than anything else. I mean, that's the situation for myself. um I you know, to be very unsubtly up on myself, I happen to have sort of that effervescent personality, so I can I could sit here and talk about myself and random internet characters that I've made up for hours. But if you're not as inclined to do stuff like that, then I would say, you know, have your character be as similar to your existing personality as you can from a personality standpoint. Like whatever they do in terms of like, shooting a bow or swinging a sword, that has nothing to do with your personality. That's like a skill you have. You know, uh
Skill issue.
I have all kinds of random skills that have nothing to do with who I am as a person. And so, a D&D character can have all kinds of random skills that have nothing to do with who they are as a person. Um, you know, if you want to play a gunslinging Loxodon, like awesome, do it. But just bear in mind that whatever you think their personality is going to be, it's just going to be you with some tweaks. So that's my advice. Lean into it. Don't try to lean away from it. Hopefully that answers the question. I was just talking.
It it answers it in a very Teezus way, which is, I think, what they were going for. They were asking Teezus, so it's try what Teezus is saying. For those of you who don't speak Teezus, I don't know. Maybe a recap is, especially if you're not experienced, and like if maybe you haven't been playing D&D that long, or you haven't been role playing for that long. At first, don't make them too far from your own personality. kind of make it close to home, but then give it those few little quirky traits. And then as you go along, maybe as you go along in that character, or as you make another character and another character, kind of stray away from the norm, or even leave your comfort zone entirely. But if
No,
it's
I agree with
not
that.
it's not hard to play a character that is not like you or almost the opposite of you, so long as you have like some qualities and traits in common. Like maybe they struggle with their self-image, or maybe they struggle with some kind of gambling addiction or otherwise, alcoholism. Maybe they ugly. I don't know. I don't know your struggle. Maybe they've got too much drip. But have some things in common with your character and then gradually move away from having things in common with your character.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. And and I think you'll find it's much easier. It's much easier to be yourself with tweaks than to like come out being something totally different. And it's all, and honestly, it's a learning experience for all of us. I mean, I didn't really start playing D&D until right after COVID. That was so like 2022-ish. And
Really?
I'd been interested in trying it out. Oh yeah.
That's Teezus lore.
I'd
I
been
never knew
interested in
that.
trying out. Yeah, it's true. No, fun facts about Jesus. It's I'd been interested in trying it out, and I just and my son and I had talked about it a few times, and he wanted to try it out, and we ended up finding a group of folks near where we live, and we started a home game. And actually my son he dropped out of it because he didn't really like it. I think he had a little bit of a case of main character syndrome, and
Yeah.
when he realized he couldn't just do whatever he wants, um, he got bored of it and walked away. But the rest of the group has maintained, and we've added to my our home group a little bit, sucking people in with cajoling and arm twisting a little bit. But it's a fun hobby that I think there's space for everybody. And I have a kid who is the son of a friend of mine who he's really into, he did plays in high school, and he likes that role play part of it. And God forbid he ever read what his spells actually do, but
And we all have
that's
waffles.
okay. He's hilarious. And it's I just I will say this, as a DM in particular, because I'm the DM at our home game. You always have everybody has their quirks as a player, and I'm just glad that I get to sort of do this hobby with other people. Um, I can, I don't know what I do. I don't know what kind of boring ass crap I would do if I hadn't found this. So,
Okay. Well, speaking of people wanting to be main characters, and I have the opposite problem with my daughter when she was playing in our Fandelver game, is I could not get her to speak. I could not get her to be a character at all, hardly. She was so nervous. But speaking of main character syndrome, we've got some Q&A to get to. We'll see how much Q&A we can do in the 25 minutes we've got left. It's
yeah.
good. We filled up a lot of time. Uh, so one question we got is how to correct bad player behavior. So edge lords, murder hobos, and main characters, etc.
So, well, obviously, well,
My
let's
main
back up.
method, my main method, and it's because I'm not a submissive person. Like I'm not shy about grabbing someone by the ear and being like, "Don't frickin' do that." I will. first, maybe even second offense. I'll DM someone, I'll go into their DMs, I'll be like, "Hey, you're being a dick. Can you stop?" But I'll put it in nicer words. Be like, "Hey, you killed a very important or tried to kill a very important quest NPC, or you committed murder in broad daylight in the middle of a town. Do you think that was a very good idea? You potentially endangered the entire party. You're upset. It's or this whatever behavior you're doing. Hey, you're taking up if you're main charactering. Hey, you're taking a lot of the spotlight. Maybe pull back a little and let some of your fellow players get some of that UV, some of those UV rays, dog." And maybe second or third offense, I'll actually call someone out in the game and be like, or I'll really what your first approach to this should be, whether you're going to approach them directly or not, whether you're going to approach them in DMs or approach them up front. My response when I have bad player behavior is to do what I can do as a DM to nip it in the bud. So if someone's being a main character, I will take away their opportunities to do that. I will try to put the focus and the spotlight on someone else with my storytelling so that everybody gets equal parts. Uh, or at least that main character that's trying to like, "Oh, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me," gets less of an opportunity to do so while still being fair to them. But you should always, when you see someone doing bad behavior, you should always tell them because how do you expect them to grow? If you're not reaching out and being like, "Hey, that thing you're doing isn't very cool. That's not very nice. You're a not nice lady."
Yeah. No, I agree. And to add to that, it's gonna depend on the individual behind the sort of the character's bad behavior. Um, you know, I think we've seen lots of different eh,
Oh wow.
lots of different scenarios. Like, the home game I was talking about with my son. um he was just edge lording everything, and that, like, we were able to deal with his edge lordiness, and that was fine. But then he started, the thing that kind of made it a problem for everybody was he started like being irritating while everybody else was trying to play. And he would like turn music on his phone loudly, and it became a problem. And we finally had to have a conversation, be like, look, if you don't want to do this, then don't do it. And we're not forcing you to. If it's not up your alley, don't do it. And uh he at first he was like, no, I want to do it, it's fun. And so, but then it became clear that he wanted to do whatever he wanted to do, and it just wasn't working out. So I was like, look, if you can't do it like this, then probably this isn't going to work out for you. And he's like, yeah, you're right. So it was a little more vehement than that, because of course there's the father son dynamic, and I've got like other people in the house, and we're playing at our house and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it resolved itself. um in the it's harder in the I think it's easier to deal with those kinds of situations in person. I think, because a lot of times, like, you especially if you're playing with consistent group of people, you probably know them outside of D&D. And so if somebody's being a pain in the ass, or doing crap that's just messing everything up, as a group you can say, hey, guy who is you know a good acquaintance, if not a friend, like, you're kind of making it not fun for the rest of us. Like, if you want to do what you're doing, you know maybe this isn't for you, or whatever the case may be. And usually, I think, most people are inherently uh they inherently want to get along with other people. So, like, if you go to them in a respectful manner and say, hey, dude, like, can we do it like this and not like that? They're gonna be like, oh, sure, sorry, I was just trying to do whatever. Now, sometimes, though, well, let me back that up. Online, I think it's a little harder, because you don't know people the same way through on like online interactions as you do in-person interactions, especially like in our server, a lot of it is that we're not nobody's on camera, so we're not seeing each other's faces, we're just hearing each other speak, which and there's no problem with that, and I love that, and I love the folks on the server, but it makes it hard to sort of you don't know people in the same way as when you're visually interacting with them, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. And so I think the first step is always to, you know, talk to somebody probably outside the context of the game first and say, like, here's the thing you're doing, you know, it's problematic because it's derailing the story, it's like messing it up for other people, like whatever the problem is. And if they refuse to take the hint, then maybe you've got to escalate things. And if it was me, and I'm me, so I can't tell people exactly what to do. If somebody was really being a disruption, I would probably say, okay, we're gonna stop playing the game right now, and we're gonna review appropriate D&D etiquette.
Yeah,
Um,
there have been
Another
times
thing
where
that,
I've just, like, stopped a whole session and been like, "I'll wait. I'll wait." Like, literally just, "I'll wait." And another
yep,
thing is, even if you're a player, you still have power. You can bring sometimes your DM doesn't notice these things and you have to bring it to their attention. Or if your DM is not handling the situation, sometimes you just have to speak up and they'll be I've spoken to problem players and been like, "Hey, you're being a problem player, don't do that." And they'll say, "Oh, well, no one else in the party has said anything to me about this behavior that I'm doing." So another even as a player, you have power. You can talk to these people and be like, "Hey, what you're doing makes me feel bad." And even if they don't listen and you ultimately have to rely on your DM, it's still that's more than one person now that's come to them and said, "Hey, this behavior isn't acceptable." And another thing,
yeah,
if you don't be afraid to call out your DM if your DM sucks, honestly. If your DM is not handling, there's different ways to handle shit. You can be nice about it and be like, "Hey DM, you're not handling this problem. Maybe you should." But some people are just bad DMs, and I hate to say it. I hate to say it because I feel like everyone has their own DM style. Some people are just bad DMs. Some people are new DMs and don't understand how to approach things. But it's
yeah.
okay not only to call out your DM, it's okay to just leave. It's okay to be like, "I can't deal with this," or "I am not in the correct headspace emotionally or mentally to deal with this. I'm going to find a different campaign." And you can either excuse yourself or you can just jump out the server and block everybody, and then that's not your problem anymore. Obviously that's harder to do in real life, but if you're playing an internet game, feel free to just peace the F out. Uh,
Yeah, I mean,
I
I think that pretty much covers all the bases.
Heck yeah. I don't be afraid. And I'm saying this as a DM, don't be afraid to speak to your DMs about things that are bothering you because a DM isn't just the storyteller, the story creator. The DM is also a mediator, and we can't
Yeah.
tell a good story if there's stuff going on in the campaign that we don't know about. So tell us. Tell us
Hmm.
what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
If we say,
let
"Oh
me throw
well,
one other
deal
thing.
with it."
Let me,
If we say, "Oh well,
sorry.
deal with it," find a new DM. Go ahead, Teezus.
No, I was just going to say one other way to deal with, especially as you get a little more experience. Uh, as a DM, one way to deal with some of this stuff is when you is like have a real organized session zero where you talk about, you know,
Yeah,
what you
session
consider to
0 is
be
so
a murder
important.
hobo. Yeah. And it's session zeros, especially with online games. And I don't know how you feel about this, Reese. can be hard because people are like, oh, it's session zero. I don't really care. I already made my character. I'm good. And that's not what session zero is
It's
about.
not just
Session zero,
people think that session zero is just character creation and getting to know everybody, and it can be that, but it's also laying down ground rules, laying down your
yes.
boundaries, your personal boundaries, what you are and are not okay with role playing with. If you are an asexual person and you don't want any romantic advances, that's what session zero is there for, to tell the other players, hey, I'm asexual. I would love to play with you guys. I don't want to deal with rejecting any romantic advances, so please don't do that.
And that's, yeah,
And other things
absolutely.
of that
And that's,
nature.
yeah. Anything. And it's, it's funny. As I get more experience doing this stuff, you're like, oh, that's something that I could have easily addressed in session zero if I had even thought of it, which I did not. So, especially for younger folks or people just getting into it, you're gonna like sort of build up that list of things that you're like, oh yeah, that's a thing that I don't think works. If I ever do this again, or when I do this again, we'll say, I'm gonna remember that and bring it up in a session zero. And then the best part about a session zero, and this is a little bit of my professional life squeaking into my hobby life. You session zero is kind of like the contract that everybody's going to work under, and when somebody violates it, you can be, you throw the you throw the flag and you say, no, you are violating the agreed upon parameters of this undertaking, sir, or ma'am, or whatever, however somebody prefers to be addressed. And and you can kind of make a joke out of it, and then it takes the sting out of it a little bit too. So just some thoughts.
So we've got a little bit more than 10 minutes left before we gotta say bye-bye. We don't want to drag this out too long. So we might go a little bit over because this next question is probably going to spur some discussion. And it also relates to an issue we had earlier today in our Discord server. Teezus, spoiler alert. How do I play
I
an edgy
apologize. Oh, go ahead.
how do I play an edgy character without being an edgelord? We all know who this one is
That's a
from.
great question. Yes. So, okay, for those of you listening, being edgy and being an edge lord are not the same thing. Number
They
one,
are not.
an edge lord, and I'm going to try and be very careful in how I define this, is somebody who is edgy just for the sake of being edgy in every conceivable interaction. So,
There's no
you
substance
know,
behind it.
yes, it is devoid of, yeah, it is devoid of substance because, if being an edgelord is like when people try to talk to you, your character is so standoffish that they never respond or just like grunt and walk away every single time. I mean, that's not and I will say this, and I've said this before, D&D is a combat-based game. Everything we do in D&D largely revolves around combat encounters, but it's also a social game. And so it's sort of like it's a emulation of real life, but in this particular life, you happen to be able to hit things with swords in fantastical ways. So, you know, the primary mechanics revolve around combat, but everything that leads up to each combat, the reasons you're getting into combat, the reasons you want to get into combat, the people that you're getting into combat with or for or against, like these are all things that are developed through non-combat interactions, and that's the role play part of things. And, if your character if you refuse to engage with the content or the other players or the DM for no reason other than, well, that's how I wrote my character, or that's how I
It's what
came
my
up with my
character
character.
would do.
You're Yeah, you're just not adding anything. You're not adding anything to sort of this story mosaic. Because again, and well, we haven't said this, but what I say to people is Dungeons and Dragons isn't just a game. It's like interactive storytelling. And Reese said this earlier, the DM is more of a
It's
moderator
collaborative.
than,
It's collaborative storytelling.
yeah, collaborative storytelling. So, if you're not adding, if your interaction is not adding anything to the story or the game or the interactions, then like why are you there? Um, so that's the question to ask yourself. So that's an edge lord, somebody who refuses to interact for no reason other than they
And
just
they're
refuse to
typically
interact.
playing someone dark and broody. When you first meet their character in the tavern, they're sitting in a dark, shadowy corner with a hood pulled up over their head, and they're just people watching, and you walk up to their table and you're like, "Hey, you look like an interesting person. Let's talk about ourselves to each other." And you're just like, "No, I don't want to." It's like,
Yes.
"Okay, never
Yeah,
mind. Don't join the party then."
that is yeah, that is absolute edge lordiness. Being edgy as a as to contrast is, people interact with you, but you're you've got some hard angles. Somebody's like, well, what are you doing? Like, it's like the difference between the Punisher, who is absolutely an edge lord, because he just is,
I'm
versus
not like
who's
other
somebody who would be,
girls.
yeah, versus, let's say, Deadpool, who is edgy, but and he does some dark things, but ultimately
He
he's
has flavor.
doing the dark things for a good reason, and he interacts with people, so it's okay. um
You get the story
Batman.
behind why Deadpool is so edgy. Like, I think the main way to avoid being an edgelord while being edgy is to let people know your story. Let them unlock it piece by piece at a time. Like, every time you hear the sound of running water, maybe you have like a space out moment, or you go into a fugue state. And if you're an edge lord, another party member would be like, "Hey, every time we get close to running water, you freak out. What's up with that?" And you'd be like, "I don't want to talk about it." That's an edge lord. But if you want to be edgy and have like that PTSD backstory, when another party member approaches you and is like, "Hey man, every time we get close to a river or a waterfall, you go a little quiet, you get that 1,000-yard stare in your eyes. Is everything okay?" And you can go into the spiel of your backstory, and just, yeah, when I was a child, my sister and I fell into a river, but only one of us was saved, and this, that, and the third. Or in the terms of like being the strong silent type or a man of few words, you can do that. You can be a character that doesn't talk much. But in order to avoid being an edgelord while doing that, you can still narrate your body language and your facial expressions, and like someone asks you a question and you kind of grunt non-committally and don't speak, but your eyes dart towards a chest in the corner, or your fingers subconsciously kind of curl, or your thumb rubs around a signet ring on on your middle finger and kind of twirls it around your one of your fingers, just to, like, even though you're not speaking, you're still contributing to the story and dropping hints on, like, okay, there is something there.
Yes, 100%, all of that.
Don't just, I don't want to talk about it
It's,
and walk away.
yeah. And one other sort of element to this is when you're coming up with your character's backstory, a question you have to ask yourself. You have to, because, unfortunately, or well, fortunately, but maybe unfortunately for some people, in the end, your character is going to be part of a group of adventurers going on adventures to do stuff together. And so if your character is written in such a way that they don't like anybody and don't want to interact with people, or, they have no reason to join a group
Why are
of
they there?
do-gooders, why are they there to begin with? And that's the question. That's a question you have to sort of fundamentally answer. And I will tell you this, and I think Reese will agree with me. The answer can't be because in the end I want to f everybody over and steal their stuff. Like that's not gonna fly.
Oh my god,
Nobody's gonna put up with that.
that's such a good way to have all of your actions in that campaign reneged to the point where like your character never existed and we just move on without you and you're never invited back.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you if I am DMing a game and somebody
Where
tells
like
me, "Yeah, my
everyone's
backstory is this,"
miraculously
and,
going
and
to forget about your character.
I would be like, you absolutely cannot play with a character who wants this to be, because that hits all the big no-nos. You're probably going to be a murder hobo if you're doing that because you're willing to kill people and take their stuff. You're probably going to be an edge lord because, I mean, I think it fits the
And
definition pretty
again,
well. I
I
mean, and
believe
you're main
that there are
charactering because
ways.
you want to turn yourself into the bad guy.
Yeah, I believe that there are
Sorry,
ways to
what was
like
that?
steal from and pickpocket the party and make it part of a story where everyone's having fun. But just make sure
Yes.
the other players are involved in the process and understand like, hey, I would like to do this. Get permission first. Run it by them first. Like, hey, at first my character is going to be ready to betray the party, but I would like for them to slowly warm up to the rest of the party and view them as family as time goes on. Sometimes it's okay to like let people know above board what's going on with your character's actions.
Yes. And here's a great example of that. If for those of you who listen to any of the D&D podcasts, for example, the Vox Machina podcast, which I know is on like the third campaign, and I'm still only like a third of the way through the first campaign. But a thing that happens some of the Vox Machina characters is they like Grog and Vax, the male twin, they like they F with each other. So like, they'll like pull little pranks on each other. And like it's done in an amusing way. And clearly, I mean, those two have clearly like talked about effing with each other, you know, you know, outside of the podcast, outside of the actual play.
They got
But
consent.
and yes, they got consent from each other. They talked about it firsthand, like, hey, wouldn't this be funny if we did this? And if I had two players as a DM that came to me and said, hey, we want to start doing this like little jokey rivalry thing. We're both cool with it. I'd be like, okay, as long as it's not taking over the whole, if it's and we're doing nothing but like watching you two pull pranks on each other, I'm cool
Yeah,
with it.
I
Like,
don't want my I
every
don't want my
once, every
4 hour session to be you two in a circle jerk echo chamber.
yeah, like we're not playing Rochambeau for a 3 hour session.
I
So,
swear to God, I'm
um,
not watching you play Soggy Biscuit.
yeah, exactly. So it's all about finding a balance, and all the thing. I think that there's room in D&D to do all the things that people want to do within certain parameters. And it only becomes a problem when people like refuse to sort of respect the fact that everybody involved in a particular game are there to try and have fun and have a good time, including the DM. Everybody forgets that the DM is trying to have fun too.
I would also like to
We don't
play
do this.
Dungeons and Dragons with you guys.
Exactly. So don't make it hard for your DM. Make it easy for the DM. Because the DM has way more control over what happens to your character than you do, just so you know.
And if you don't have a DM, you can't play Dungeons and Dragons.
It's 100% true. Without a DM, you're just a bunch of people sitting in a circle with dice looking at each other.
With no DM, you only have the dungeon, but with no dragon.
Exactly.
No ampersand. Just sad. Just dungeon. Well, that's all the time we have on tonight's podcast. Our first episode, our first podcast.
Well, this was a lot of fun, Reese. I enjoyed it.
I feel like the conversation flowed very naturally between us, but it tends to do that even when we're not recording ourselves. So
It's true. We're kindred spirits.
we are. We
You're my
have a
boy.
lot in common as far as our belief systems go and our morality. So
As they say in my favorite movie, you're my boy, Blue. You're my boy.
you're my boy. You're the homie. So thank you, Teezus, for chatting with me tonight and answering some of these silly little questions that I had and some of these not so silly little questions that other people had.
And thank you for having me, Reese. This is super cool. Can I randomly make an announcement that I have not run past you? Well, not officially yet.
I'm scared, but go ahead because I trust you.
Okay. So for all of our 8 listeners, I just want to announce I'm going to start DMing a new campaign sometime in the fall after my son goes to college so that I'm going to have a lot more free time when that happens. So it's going to be a homebrew campaign that I'm currently in the process of writing, but it's going to be interesting, I think. So and the details are yet to come, and so just keep that in mind that there's going to be an opportunity to play with Uncle Teezus as the DM, and I think we'll all have a good
Do we
time.
really have 8 listeners?
I mean, I
Or is
don't
that
know.
just a random?
Is there? That's just a random number I said. I have
Oh
no
my god. I
idea
was
how
like,
you
8
would
whole
even look that
people?
up.
I was so excited. No.
I don't know. You got to check the YouTube, see how many people are actually listening.
I do.
As I
I'll
mentioned,
check.
I don't have social media, so I can't. I have no idea.
He's too old for social media. Back in his day, he would tie a message to a pigeon foot and just yeet the pigeon and hope it
We
came
had
back.
we had AOL Instant Messenger, and we
It
liked it.
wasn't very instant, I tell you what. It was not very instant. God, I remember AOL. Or back when Yahoo still had the theme song. Yahoo! Oh my
And
god.
I'll tell you what, Yahoo
I
Mail
tell
was
you.
innovative back in the day.
I still have my Yahoo email address.
So do
That was the
I.
shit. It was my first ever email was a Yahoo.
Hmm. Well, no, my first ever email was a AOL account.
I know it was. I bet it was. I bet it was.
You remember the dial up? Well, you may not.
I do actually. I
I
remember the.
remember. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. And if you were on the
Wow,
internet
you
and
did that
someone
really
got on the
well.
phone, it disrupted the internet. And if someone was on the phone and you tried to get on the internet, you couldn't get on the internet. You could not
Hmm.
phone and internet at the same time.
I can remember like it would be like midnight on a Saturday night. I'd be trying to pull up some booby pics on the home computer.
On God,
It would take 15 minutes for that one shot to load, and you're just sitting there rubbing your hands together.
like a fly. Like a fly that just ate a
That might have
turd.
been TMI, but I don't care.
Listen, half of these people aren't going to know what we mean when we say boots and boobies. And if they do, you know what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Look at this guy. He's on the level.
That's right.
All right.
All right,
Well,
Reese. Well, is it time to sign off?
it is. I have to do my signature outro.
Oh, do it.
If
I'll sit
if
quietly.
Everyone say bye-bye to Uncle Teezus. Bye, Uncle Teezus.
I'm waving like people can see me. Bye.
Bye. I love you guys. Thanks for playing with me or listening in tonight, since this is a podcast and not a game. Please be excellent to each other. And adios.